All right, welcome everyone to another deep dive with us. Today we're going urban, but maybe not in the way you'd expect.
Yeah, this one is pretty interesting.
We're going to be looking at cities through the eyes of, well, a burglar.
Exactly.
So crack open A Burglar's Guide to the City. That's by Geoff Manaugh.
Definitely a unique perspective on architecture and urban design.
For sure, we're going to see how the criminal mind interacts with the spaces we build and live in.
It really makes you think differently about those everyday spaces, you
Which
know?
it totally does. Like, did you know that burglars are like drunk Jedis of architectural space? I mean, it's a wild concept.
And LA's freeway system, did you know it played a key role in the city becoming like the bank robbery capital of the world?
Seriously.
Yeah.
That's insane. All right, well, buckle up because we're about to get into all of that. So first off, let's talk about this idea of spatial intelligence. I mean, I know it sounds kind of obvious, but what does that actually mean when we're talking about, breaking and entering?
Well, I think it's more than just like picking locks, you know? Right. It's this whole way of analyzing and exploiting the built environment. Like burglars, they become masters of how things are put together
Oh, okay.
and how they can be taken apart.
Oh, wow. That's both unsettling but fascinating at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, Manaugh in the book, he tells this crazy story about George Leonidas Leslie. Now, this guy was a 19th century architect who actually became a master burglar.
Really?
Yeah, and he was supposedly responsible for something like 80% of bank robberies in the U.S. back then.
Wow. 80%.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That is wild.
So what did he do? Like, how did he use his architectural knowledge?
Well, think about it. He used blueprints.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. He cased buildings meticulously.
Yeah.
And he even went as far as to build replica vaults to practice his heists.
Oh my gosh, that's like a heist movie mastermind come to life.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, though, right? Like, are architects, without even realizing it, giving criminals a blueprint with their designs?
I mean, it's definitely a provocative thought, right? Like you said. And it highlights how design choices can have unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
You know, another example Manaugh talks about is Los Angeles and how its sprawling freeway system
Yeah?
actually contributed to its reputation as like the bank robbery capital in the 90s.
So wait, the freeways, which are meant to help people get around, actually ended up helping criminals get away.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. They provided these quick escape routes and a sense of anonymity, you know?
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's like the city's design was working against itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I read this somewhere that back in the 70s, the LAPD actually got NASA involved to try and understand crime from like a spatial perspective.
Oh, wow.
I know. They were using helicopters to get this bird's eye view of the city and study how criminals moved around.
That's a pretty ingenious, actually. It shows how understanding those spatial dynamics can be super helpful for security strategies.
For sure.
But then, on the other hand, burglary techniques, they're constantly evolving, just like the technology they're exploiting, right?
Right. Like we've gone from this very classic lock-picking image to all this new stuff. We've got, electronic bypass systems and even GPS jammers.
Yeah, yeah. It's a constant race, right?
It is.
You know, to stay ahead of the curve, both for the criminals and law enforcement.
Definitely. And speaking of keeping up, Manaugh, he talks about this crazy case from Berlin in 1995 where a group of burglars, they actually dug an escape tunnel before robbing a bank.
Wait, they dug the tunnel before?
Yeah, I know. Can you believe that?
Talk about planning ahead.
Right. I mean, they basically outsmarted the city itself.
Yeah.
They knew the underground infrastructure better than, well, anyone. It's like they had this secret map that no one else could see.
It's true. It just goes to show that burglars see the city differently, like as this whole system.
Yeah.
Transportation, infrastructure, security measures, it's all a system to them.
Right.
And they're constantly finding ways to manipulate those systems.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they're playing 4D chess while we're over here playing checkers.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, Manaugh, he uses this phrase, drunk Jedis of architectural space, to describe these guys.
Okay. That's a little out there, but I kind of get it.
Right. It's a little out there, but it does capture that feeling of like them bending the rules of the city,
It's interesting you bring up that phrase, though, because I think it also brings in a psychological angle.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this feeling of control over the environment.
Uh-huh.
They have mastery over these spaces that they infiltrate.
That's really interesting. But it's important to remember, though, right, that there's a victim on the other side of all this. I mean, it's not just some game of wits.
Of course, you're absolutely right. The violation of someone's personal space, the feeling of insecurity after a break-in,
Right.
that can have such a lasting impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got this mix here of architectural knowledge, criminal ingenuity, and the very real psychological impact of burglary. I mean, where do we even start to address all this? I know Manaugh does talk about some modern security innovations.
He does, and they're pretty wild,
Yeah.
actually.
Like what?
Think about it. High-strength concrete that's designed to resist drills, facial recognition surveillance systems, and even, believe it or not, thorny bushes that they call Rambo bushes for perimeter security.
Rambo bushes. That's amazing.
It is. It's like the future of security is getting pretty high-tech, wouldn't you say?
It really is. But it also makes you wonder, though, right? As technology evolves, won't criminals just find new ways to adapt?
That's the thing. It's the perpetual challenge, this constant game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
But as Manaugh points out, it's not just about the technology. It's about understanding the psychology of burglary.
Okay, so let's get into that. What's going on in the mind of a burglar? What are their motivations?
Well, Manaugh suggests that they often feel this sense of ownership over the spaces they infiltrate.
Okay.
They study them meticulously. They map them out.
Right.
They learn all their weaknesses. It's as if, for a short time, they're claiming those spaces as their own.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about the things that they steal. It's about this control, about this mastery over the environment.
Exactly. And that's why, understanding their motivations, their thought process is so important.
Right.
If we can anticipate how they see things, how they exploit these vulnerabilities, we can better protect ourselves, right?
So it's not about turning our homes into these fortresses. It's about understanding the mind of the opponent.
Exactly. Exactly. Manaugh, he really challenges us to, step into the shoes of a burglar.
Oh, wow.
See the city through their eyes. And by doing that, to gain this deeper understanding of our urban environments.
That's amazing. So it's like he's giving us this secret decoder ring for the city.
He is.
He's helping us unravel all these hidden layers and complexities.
It goes beyond security, too, don't you think?
It totally does.
Yeah.
Once you start to see the city that way, you realize that every element, every building, every street corner, even a park bench, could be part of someone's story.
Right.
A story of success or failure or even crime. It's incredible.
Yeah, the city becomes this living, breathing entity with all these different narratives woven together, and we all play a part in that story.
Right. And it's by tuning into that city drama, paying attention to those subtle cues and those patterns of urban life.
Yes.
That we become more aware, more engaged, and definitely more secure, too.
Manaugh is basically giving us a masterclass,
Okay.
in urban awareness, encouraging us to be mindful and appreciative of our surroundings, in all their complexity.
Yeah. So it's about finding that balance, isn't it? Appreciating the beauty and complexity of the city, but also being aware of those potential risks.
Exactly. That's what makes this book so compelling.
Yeah.
It encourages us to think critically about the spaces we inhabit. How can we make them safer, more resilient?
Yeah.
But it also reminds us that the city is full of surprises.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got mysteries and stories just waiting to be uncovered.
And maybe, just maybe, by understanding the methods of those who exploit the city, we can create a city where those very methods become obsolete.
No, that's a goal worth striving for.
Right.
Yeah. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've still got a lot more to explore in A Burglar's Guide to the City.
We do.
So stick with us as we wrap up this deep dive in our final part.
We're back. And, I've been thinking about something you said earlier about how burglars, they almost have this, sixth sense when it comes to spotting vulnerabilities. Things that most of us would just completely miss,
Yeah. It's true. It all goes back to that unique perspective we were talking about. They're not just looking at a building, they're analyzing it.
Yeah.
They're calculating risks, they're planning escape routes, all in just a split second.
So it's not about brute force then, it's more about strategy and observation, like almost an art form.
Yeah, you could say that. They're constantly adapting, learning the city's patterns, exploiting weaknesses in our habits, our routines. Manaugh talks about how burglars will often target homes that are close to easy escape routes, things like freeway on-ramps, bus stops, even subway stations.
So they're not just picking some random house. They're thinking about the bigger picture, like the flow of the city almost.
Exactly. minimizing risk, maximizing efficiency. They need to get in and out fast, blend back into the urban fabric. It's like they're studying the city's circulatory system, you know? Not blood, but burglars, finding those paths of least resistance.
That's a wild analogy, but I kind of get it. It makes you wonder, though, how do they even choose a specific house in the first place? Like, what makes one place more, I don't know, appealing than another?
Well, Manaugh, he points out that certain design features can make a home way more vulnerable. For example, sliding glass
Yeah.
doors. They're often super easy to just lift off their tracks, and that provides a quick, quiet entry point.
So something that we might think of as convenient, as like a nice feature,
Yeah.
could actually be a huge security risk.
Totally. And think about, like, windows that have those multiple small panes.
Oh, yeah.
They might look nice and charming, but they're actually much noisier and more difficult to break than, say, a single large pane of glass.
Okay.
So that might actually deter a burglar.
So it's like we need to start thinking about our homes from a burglar's perspective.
Exactly.
Like if we were trying to break in, what would we target?
That's a great way to approach it. And it's
Yeah.
not all about just fancy alarm systems and stuff, Manaugh talks about how valuable good landscaping can be. Thorny bushes, dense shrubs, that kind of thing. Those can be really effective natural deterrents.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Mm.
Like a built-in security system, courtesy of Mother Nature. But let's be real, some people are going to want to go the high-tech route.
Huh?
What's on the cutting edge of home security these days?
Oh, it's getting pretty wild. We're talking super high strength, concrete mixes that are incredibly tough to drill through, surveillance systems with like facial recognition that can identify potential threats before they even get close to your property. There are even sensors now that can detect tiny changes in air pressure or vibrations, which could indicate that someone's trying to force a door or a window.
Wow. I mean, that's like straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But it also makes you think, right? As technology keeps evolving, aren't criminals just going to find ways to adapt?
Well, yeah, of course. That's the constant challenge. That cat and mouse game never really ends. But as Manaugh emphasizes in the book, it's not just about the technology. It's about understanding the psychology behind burglary.
All right, well, let's dive into that. What's going on in the mind of a burglar? What are their motivations?
Well, Manaugh suggests that they often feel a sense of ownership, I guess you could say, over the spaces that they end up infiltrating. They study them so carefully, they map them out, they learn all their little weaknesses. It's as if, for a short time, those spaces become their own.
That's such a fascinating perspective. It's not just about the objects they steal. It's almost like it's more about control.
Yeah.
It's about this mastery over the environment, right?
Exactly. And I think that's why understanding their motivations, understanding their thought processes, that's so crucial. Because if we can, anticipate how they're going to see those vulnerabilities and exploit them,
Right.
then we can, better protect ourselves.
So it's not about turning our homes into these impenetrable fortresses. It's more about understanding the mind of your opponent.
Exactly, yeah. Manaugh, he challenges us to, really step into the shoes of a burglar, to see the city through their eyes. And in doing that, to really gain this much deeper understanding of our urban environments.
He's handing us that secret decoder ring for the city,
Yes.
It's helping us to unravel all those hidden layers and complexities. And it goes so much deeper than just security, though, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Once you start seeing the city that way, you realize that every single element, every building, street corner, park bench, it all has the potential to be part of someone's story,
Yeah.
A story of success, failure, even crime.
It's like the city becomes this living, breathing entity, right?
Uh-huh.
With all these narratives just woven together. And we all play a part in that story.
We do. It's by tuning into that drama, the drama of the city, paying attention to those subtle cues, those patterns of urban life,
Right.
that we become more aware, more engaged, and yes, more secure too.
It's like Manaugh's giving us this masterclass in urban awareness,
Yes.
encouraging us to be so mindful and just appreciative of our surroundings in all of their complexity.
All their layers.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance, right?
Yes.
Like appreciating the beauty and the complexity of the city,
Mhm.
but also being aware of those potential risks too.
That's exactly it. And that's what makes this book so compelling, I think.
Yeah.
He encourages us to think critically about the spaces that we inhabit,
Uh-huh.
how we can make them safer, more resilient.
Yeah.
But he also, I love this, he reminds us that the city is full of surprises.
Absolutely.
It has all these mysteries and stories just waiting to be uncovered.
And maybe, just maybe, By understanding the methods of those who exploit it, we can build a city where those methods just become obsolete.
Now, that would be amazing. That's a goal worth striving for.
Wouldn't it be?
Yeah. But we've still got so much more to explore in A Burglar's Guide to the City, you know?
We do.
So stick with us as we wrap up this deep dive in our final part.
We're back for our final look at A Burglar's Guide to the City. And, I can't stop thinking about how burglars they see the city so differently,
Yeah, they really do. It's like they've got this hidden layer unlocked.
right? Like a network of vulnerabilities, opportunities that most of us would just walk right past.
Exactly.
Think about it. We could walk by a building every day, right? Never notice a specific window or a dark corner. But a burglar, they see it all.
They're attuned to it. Yeah, they see potential where we just see another wall.
It's all about that spatial intelligence.
It is. It's not just seeing, it's understanding how it all fits together, how it can be, well, manipulated.
So it's like playing a different game.
Totally.
We're following the rules, walking around predictably, and they're looking for the loopholes.
Yeah, they're thinking, how can I subvert this?
Exactly. Manaugh's book, it's not just about crime, though.
It's not, no.
It's about how we see things, how that shapes everything.
Perception.
Yes. So if we could all see the city a little more like a burglar, would we be better off?
That's a really interesting question.
Right.
Imagine having that awareness of space.
Seeing the potential in everything, yeah.
We might design better buildings, safer streets, who knows?
We could anticipate crime instead of just reacting to it.
And think about it, burglary thrives on disconnection.
Oh, interesting.
Those gaps in our social fabric.
So if we can see those gaps, bridge them somehow.
Exactly. We build a more resilient city, a more inclusive one.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about just catching criminals then.
It's about making crime less appealing, less opportunity.
We're all responsible for
Yeah.
how our communities are.
We are.
That's a big takeaway from this book.
It is.
So maybe by adopting a little bit of that burglar mindset,
A little bit, yeah.
that willingness to question things, challenge them.
That can unlock some really interesting possibilities.
Innovation, even.
For sure. Manaugh's giving us permission to be more curious,
We'll like that.
more adventurous in how we approach city life.
To think outside the box, explore those hidden pathways.
The city's not just a backdrop, you know?
It's not.
It's an ecosystem. We're all part of it.
We are. And by engaging with it differently, we make it better.
More rewarding for everyone.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this book, I think the message is clear.
Stay curious.
Keep your eyes open,
And maybe think like a burglar every now and then.
but use those powers for good, right?
Exactly.
If you want a book that'll change how you see the city, it's this one.
A Burglar's Guide to the City, it's a must-read.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring.